So today, I thought I'd show you the K03 sharpening, which is a slightly different method than the one I did the other day using the wicked edge. This time what I'm going to sharpen though is a Randall made knife. So this is a 10-3 drop point, a little wee knife made out of 154 cm, black micarta handles, hollow grind. It's not super blunt, but blunt enough that I decided to sharpen it. Let me show you a different system. Now, one of the things I really like about this, and I haven't got it on at the moment, is the fact that while this is a small clamp, I've also got a set of double clamps, and they go on the outside. You can actually run this with it, but it makes it a lot wider clamping potential. So for a big flexible knife, which is not very good with a single clamp, the big long clamps will hold that and stop it from flexing. And that's one of the things I really like with this system, as opposed to the wicked edge, which doesn't have anything like that. It's only got the single clamp, and I find things tend to flop around if they're flexible. Like for instance a fillet knife or a bone knife, something like that tends to flop around. Whereas in this system, when I put both arms on, it's pretty much rock solid. So yeah, this is a Randall knife, 10-3. Probably one of the best American custom made knives you can buy. Well, not necessarily the 10-3, but Randall made knives. And this is obviously a Russian sharpener, so let's see what happens. So far so good, it hasn't blown up or gone crazy. So I'm just using the supplied little tools to set everything in nice and sharp. Now, with the stones, what I'm going to do is put them in water. They're just ordinary old tap water, nothing flash, nothing special there. So 120, 220, 400, 600 and 1000. Now, as well as that, I've got 3 Japanese stones, a Tsprof Pro 2000, a Hayabusa, it's a 4000, and a Fuji 8000. So they're true Japanese water stones. These other ones are made by Tsprof, and I'm not 100% sure exactly what they are, to be honest. Bad at all. They just they wear quite quickly. So first thing we need to do is zero everything off and decide what angle I want to sharpen this at. Yeah, I'm not quite actually happy with how that's sitting, so I'll just adjust it a little bit more, not as straight as I wanted it to be. Probably this is a kind of everyday EDC type knife. It's pretty small. It's actually a bait knife. That's how they originally designed it. Designed to kind of throw it in your tackle box and chop up bait for fishing. Most of the Randall knives have got a theme to do with hunting or fishing in some ways or another. They're all practical knives. Even the 10-3. I've got a few Randall knives. I've got 10-3, I've got an 18, and I've got another 10 7-inch one, which I haven't actually used, mainly because I got it. was a little bit blunt, and I never got around sharpening it, but I am sharpening this now. I feel this torquing when I sharpen it. Yeah, it's just not sitting in. Could be because of the tape I put on it. I put tape on it to try and stop the blade scratching out too much, but it's just seems to be torquing because of the grind of the knife. So we'll take that out and just put it in without and try not to scratch it up. It's my knife, so it doesn't really matter if I scratch it. With a client's knife I would try and get tape on it. The tape hides exactly where it's sitting, makes it a bit tricky. But I can see now that it's sitting a little bit better, and you can see the Randall mark. Probably sharpen it on an angle, but it might make the finish a little bit mucky, I'm not sure. That's okay because it gives the stones longer time to soak. You know, as I was saying, the angle, I need to set that. So probably, normally I'd probably set that EDC knife at around 20. But today, what I will do is set it at 18. Just because I like 18. So you put the stones in, it's got a beautiful dovetail thing which holds them, locks them into place. And then put that on the back there, bring that forward till it's resting where you want it to. I'll just bring this, it's got a kind of a stroke adjustment if you like, so that you can set it so that it doesn't go too far. I'll show you that in a minute, but we'll just adjust the angle, and you can just do that by turning up and down. So 18.0. It's 18 degrees. I'll just show you that. So I'll just show you how that works. So that there, and then down, lowers it, up, raises it, and once it's at 18, you can lock it into place and get rid of that. So, I said it's got a way of adjusting the length of the stroke. It's two kind of dials up here, I might show you afterwards. But essentially, what you're doing is creating a burr. Probably, normally, might not use a 120 on a knife such as this, but I'm going to anyway, just to show you how it works. Now, I'll get fancier stroking later on. High grit stones, you can certainly hear the noise it makes. Yeah, that's working. So I'll just flip that round to the other side. And take off the burr we just created. And then also create the burr on the other side. 120 stone is pretty harsh. And then we'll just wipe off some of the muck. Yeah. And you can see that muck forming on the stone. I need to give those a good wash. Get all that muck off there afterwards. So once we've done that, we will flip it over once more and do the other side this time with the 220. Now you can straight away hear the difference, but I can, and the feedback as well. If you're graunching away on the metal, the 120 it's quite rough. Definitely get feedback and noise, but after a wee while you learn to kind of read and understand what that noise means. .220 honestly is still very rough. I really didn't need to go that extreme. Disadvantage with this system and the advantage with the wicked edge is the stroke progression. So with this, certainly at these early stages, I'm kind of guessing how many strokes I'm doing, whereas with the wicked edge I'm doing even strokes, and what I mean by that is because I'm doing one side at a time, I might end up doing 20 strokes on one side and 22 strokes on the other. Does it matter? Don't know. Potentially it does wear more on one side and you might get slightly uneven bevels. Now with the wicked edge, because of the way it works, I'm doing alternate strokes and a set medium, and it's easier. I mean, I could flip this back and forth, but it would be really tedious doing it that way. Although for the final stone, I will do it that way, but I'll show you as we go along. Start with though, one side then the other, and just kind of working on the burr and working on feedback and working with the noise. You kind of learn what is needed. Now this system holds in place quite well. You can, particularly heavy knives, or if you're particularly nervous, grip it here or grip it back here to give it a little bit more stability. But the vice seems very nice to me. Lock in as long as you don't have issues in the knife where one part is on a different angle than the other. Because of a distal taper on this one, it is slightly, but nothing major. Let's go for more strokes back here. So these stones at least use water. I guess you could use other types of media as well, but water seems to be fine. You can see the sludge, as I was saying before, building up, and that's just a combination of metal and stone coming off as they wear away from each other. So putting in the 600 stone now, and I will at this point drop in my Sharpening Pro into the water as well. Now there's debate about this. Some people say you just splash and go. In other words, spray it, use a spray bottle, or wet it however you like. Personally, I've tried a couple of different methods and I just like soaking it. I'm not too worried about the Tsprof stones, as they were cheap ones, which eventually I will replace them all, possibly with diamond ones. I'm not sure. I've got some diamond ones on order. See how they behave. But Japanese ones I'll probably aim to keep for quite some time. I'm not sure if it's a good idea to soak those or not. On the other hand, I don't want them drying out, so that seems fine. Oh, here's a trick for young players. I'll show you the problem here. The vice, possibly didn't tighten that up tight enough, is starting to rotate. Had this happen on quite a few different knives and a few different systems, not specifically this system. First time it's happened to me on this system, but it's happened to me on Wicked Edge. It's happened to me on most systems I've used, and that the knife, the distal taper, like this one, can pop out and come loose. Luckily, you can just put it back in, and because I've set the angle on the guide rod, I don't need to adjust the angle on the knife. Otherwise, we'd have to start all over again. And it just goes to show you've got to keep a constant eye on what you're doing. I don't think that's the problem with the vice per se. I think that's a problem with the shape of the knife. Now I could test it all and make sure that the angle is all correct again and again. If it had been a client's knife, I probably would. If my own knife gets heavily used, I use this knife to score the Christmas ham. Not too fast. So this is just a 154 CPM bar stock made by Randall. I think they aim to have their knives done around, I'm guessing 58, 60 Rockwell. Right, 1000 grit. Here we go. You can definitely hear the difference now between the, the 120 and the 220, and now it's just sort of gliding over the knife edge. You don't need to put in any real pressure. You could do, but again, I'm afraid that would cause some unevenness. You do have to watch the tip. You don't want to round your tip, and you don't want the stone to fall over and clip it or anything. You just want to glide over it, giving it the same, ideally, amount of strokes as everywhere else. Edge is starting to get there, so I will now drop in the 4,000 and the 8,000 grit stones and take out the 2,000. So that last stone I finished on was 1,000 grit. Now, again, what you could do is these stones are probably very slightly thinner than these ones. So what I could do, if I was worried about it, is retest the angle here, retest the angle on the stone, and adjust it so that it maintained that same angle that I had started with, which was 18. But again, I'm not that fast. Again, this is mine as opposed to a client, so I just want to get it sharp and get it usable again, because it just got a little bit blunt. I should have shown you the bluntness actually on the paper. Now, when you get to these stones and they're almost silent, what I kind of like to do is do a stroke as opposed to going up and down on one spot, although I'll still do it a little bit. But at this point I'm looking at trying to get an even stroke as much as possible and an even wear on the bevel so that it's consistent. And so as opposed to going up and down like this, that may potentially wear one spot more than the other, start to do, I look a little bit awkward, occasional glides across it, and I feel that reduces the chance of there being a flat spot. But honestly, I'm not using very much pressure in this, and I'm going back and forth, so the chance of there being one is pretty minimal. Now again, normally I would put these back into water straight away and not leave them as they are. In fact, I'll just go and give them a real quick rinse off now. Just because I do like my stones. I know when I have to replace them all, I think is pretty close by. And what I'm doing essentially is just rubbing off the swarf, which is kind of stone and metal which has been loosened up in part from sharpening, which is this metal coming off, and part is from the wear the stone gets, which just takes some of the stone media away. The other thing that you've got to notice is that the blade gets covered in goo, and that goo actually helps you sharpen to a certain extent. But when you change grits, you want to get rid of that so that the new grit does not get contaminated, the stone doesn't get contaminated essentially, so that each time you're going up in grit. So this was a 4,000 grit now stone. Very little noise, very little feedback. Just keeping an eye on how the blade is sitting in that grip, so I can see that the vice might scratch the blade a little bit, but again, this is a user knife, not a safe queen, and there'll probably be people having heart attacks right now because I'm scratching up and using a Randall, but knives are made to be used. I don't think the scratch is really going to affect it very much. It's a stainless knife. Randall made his knife to be used, and this is a Randall. Let's use them. And to use them, you want them sharp. And this, my friends, is going to be sharp. So this one, I'll just chuck in the water here because at the same time I'm taking it out, so even though that's a dirty old stone now, it won't really contaminate things very much because I'm switching out the stone. I can see an absolute mirror polish curing on that Randall now. So it seems to me that a Randall knife works really well in a Russian sharpener. So there you go. Maybe there can be peace and harmony in the world after all. People just need to learn to love each other and have sharp knives. Right, okay. Now I'm going to do something a bit different here to finish it off. So I've had a bit of a grind on both sides like this. Flip it over and go 1, 2, 3. Flip it back. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 1, 1. 1. And why am I doing that? Well, I'm doing that because I want to try and even out the amount of strokes each side is getting. I look at each, I don't have to do this because essentially I'm doing almost both sides at the same time because it's set up in such a way. This one, a little bit more effort is required, but it's no real hardship. Okay. So yeah, that's sharp now. So yeah, comes with a set of tools. If you buy the kit, mine came with 4 in this little tool rack. Different sizes for different bits and pieces. They're good. They're not brilliant, and sometimes I find I need to use the tools to tighten the tool, because this one here is just not playing ball. So it's like it's kind of rotating inside the shaft, and not actually doing the style. I've got another way of doing it. I'll have to grab. Spent so much effort trying to get it tight that I've over tightened it somewhat. Grab that now. Do that. I'll show you. These are the other clamps that I was talking about. So they clip in here and can be moved along. And so if you want, you can actually have these instead of a big one, or you can have 2, or you can set up 3 even. I've seen they've been done before. I don't know why, but yeah. So it came with other tools as well. Hopefully one of these ones will fit in here. Otherwise I will have to go and get some others. Like the right one. So yeah, it does come with pretty tools, but not necessarily the best ones for the job. So not about perfection, folks. Here we're about getting the job done. Interesting to see if we've scratched up the blade a lot. No, and let's have a look at the blade though. You see that mirror finish. Not sure, let's try doing that. To get it to focus. Well, test. Paper. Yeah. So there's the proof of the pudding. Slow controlled curvy cuts. If you bring it all the way through, you'll feel if it has any blunt spot because it will bind. No, seems to be doing alright. Yeah, so here we are. Randall 10.3 sharpened on the Tsprof. Slight issue with the tool that it comes with, but it's probably just not a major issue. Bunch of stones, water, cases. I've actually got this clamped to a table, as you can see, so it doesn't roll around too much. And I'm undetermined as whether I will edit some of this, but yeah. Lovely, lovely machine. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great new year.